This is Back to Back.
Yo, what's up, Back-to-Backers? This is Willy Joy. Welcome to the show. This is Back to Back. This is my podcast. How are you? How are you doing? I'm recording this intro on Valentine's Day. So for any of you out there who care about that kind of thing, I hope you had a great Valentine's Day. I'm a little more interested in the half-off chocolate that we're going to get tomorrow. But, you know, whatever you get out of it, I hope you had a good one. I hope you found your bliss, whatever that means to you. And God damn it, that was a good segue because my guest on the show today is Must Die, the dubstep legend himself. He's got a new track out right now called Bliss 2K. I think it's safe to say it's the craziest dubstep song of the year so far. Every DJ I know has been talking about it. Definitely go check that out. Bliss 2K out right now on Never Say Die. And we're going to get into that conversation with Must Die in just a minute here. Before we do, I just want to give a quick shout out to everybody who's been writing in lately, everybody who's been posting up support for the show. I see all of that. I try to respond to everybody. I try to repost and retweet everything that people put up about the show. That support really means a lot. It is the best way to help this show grow. So if you like what you hear on this show, why don't you just tell a friend about us, let them know, put up a post, tell people you're listening, and you can always reach out to me, backtobackpod@gmail.com is the email address, or at Willy Joy or at backtobackpod on all social media. Send me your questions, your thoughts, your concerns. If you make music, you can send me your tunes. If you don't make music, but you just feel like talking shit about somebody else, I'm down for that too. Whatever you want, I am here for you. Don't forget, you can also go check out the Back to Bangers playlist on Spotify. That's a playlist I update every single week with brand new music from my guests, from myself, and just music that we talk about on this show. It's a super fun playlist. Just like this show, we mix it up. It's all different kinds of music, all different styles. You'll hear some stuff you love. You'll hear some stuff you've never heard before, some classics, some underground shit. It's great. The link to that is in the description of this episode. So go check that out when you're done here. But for today, for right now, it is Must Die all day long on the show. This conversation felt like a breath of fresh air. I really needed it when it happened. We met up in LA. Must Die was playing a show out there. I went over to his hotel room a few hours before. The tape started rolling, and man, it just kept rolling. We talked for a long time. I think it was cathartic for both of us. He's a really thoughtful person. I love what he's bringing to the table, not only with just his music, which is really, really good, but his whole attitude, his perspective, his philosophy on the music that he's making is really refreshing and really exciting to me. We talked about everything, you know, how he got his start, broke and sleeping on the floor, to, you know, working with Skrillex, releasing his first album, constant touring, and we also talk about kind of his creative revival recently. There's a lot of tangents, a lot of us just enjoying each other's company. I got to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, which for me, any day I get to talk about that is a good one. And really, I think it's just going to be extremely hard to not come out of this loving Must Die, even more than you did before. Don't forget, his new track, Bliss 2K, is out right now. I will put a link in the description of this episode where you can go follow Must Die. You can get all the music, all the tour dates. He was a treat to talk to. It's going to be a treat for you to listen to it right now. So let's just jump in. This is me and Must Die, back to back. Let's go. My feet are super fucked up, so it's like I need they only make this one kind of shoe with like really strong support.
Thick support.
Yeah. And luckily they made this cyber one.
I wear platform boots, so I'm just fucking myself over.
But I mean, does it work? Like, are your arches, your feet good?
Yeah, they're comfy.
Yeah.
They're more comfy than sneakers to me.
Really?
It's something about the weight on stage makes it like I don't know. It makes me feel like every movement has a purpose, and it feels more theatrical, and I get more into the show.
Oh, that's kind
But
of
if I'm wearing sneakers, I'm just like, I'm fucking tired.
That's kind of amazing, actually, because you'll see people go barefoot, like go the opposite way.
Oh, what, Rusco?
Sure, Rusco, or like, doesn't Adventure Club do that?
I think Leighton does go barefoot, yeah.
Yeah, which is unimaginable to me.
It's like instant staph infection, if you ask me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because here's the thing. It only takes Rusco playing and then Adventure Club playing for some foot fungus to happen. I don't want that.
That's not the good kind of collab.
Yeah. DJ healthcare is not great.
if existent at all.
I don't know. I have healthcare.
As do I.
But I do not use it because
Right.
I am a waste man.
Well, I mean, my health care is, I have it, but it's basically catastrophe insurance. It's like,
It's just like, am I dying?
well, yeah, it's like if you get hit by a bus, it'll take care of you. Otherwise, you're just going to pay for it. You know?
Right, yeah.
It's like the only way to make it affordable for people in our positions.
We could go on and on about healthcare, but I feel like CNN and Fox already do that. So
Yeah, no, we can switch topics. What was the radio thing you were just talking about?
Yeah, for New Year's, I was in Denver with Sudden Death, and he was like, I made this intro, and it was basically just like the end scene of Annihilation, that Moderat song. Moderat, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's that group.
Yeah.
And there's like this crazy like wah, 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 re-space thing, and I was like, oh, I want to do that. So I like made a patch that sounded like it, and made this intro, and I was like super stoked, and it like goes into my new song, and I'm like, oh yeah, dude. Like, this is going to be our intro. And, like, it's like an hour before the set.
Yeah.
And he just goes, like, no. He goes, like, how about we just do vocals? I'll do it. And I, like, pull up Ableton, and he, like, does these vocals where he's just like, hey, na-na-na-na-na. But, like, in straight, like, not a change of voice. It's just, like, Danny talking.
Yeah.
I was like, let me just try, like, one take. I, like, just go, like, ladies and gentlemen. I forgot what we said. I think it was something like, I think I called everyone like a son of a bitch. I need to look at it again, but it's like, I did the voice like way better than I'm doing it now.
Right.
I just
like that. You were in the zone.
Howard Stern shone through me, and I felt disgusting.
It's crazy you mentioned the re-space, man. I just earlier this week, I did one of these with Kevin Saunderson. And
I don't know who that is.
He's one of the fathers of techno.
Oh,
So-
wait. Who did Dominator?
He didn't do Dominator, but it was like back in the day in the early 80s in Detroit, it was him, Juan Atkins, and Derek May
Derek May, I know.
Yeah, they were the three people who like kind of literally invented techno music. So
Right
he's an OG dude. But what I didn't know until that conversation was that he also made the re-space.
I knew it was a techno sound.
Yeah, which blew my mind.
So what's interesting is that I would have heard the tune because like I get pretty dorky about like the origins of sounds. So I would have heard the tune, just the name didn't stick in my head.
Yeah.
All the techno heads are gonna kill me. But hey guys, I'm learning.
My manager didn't know who he was either. That was not a fun conversation.
Menagers.
Schism's your manager, right?
Yeah. He is.
And that's been like a long time running.
Yeah,
right?
I think at this Christmas I was looking for a gift for him, and I realized like I could do like it's been exactly 5 years at like Christmas time is when I signed the contract.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, like exactly 5 years together.
How did that come about? How did you guys start working together back in the day?
Oh yeah, he played a show in Atlanta with Zomboy, and I knew Crankin, Gabe, and he put me in touch because he was like, I think you should meet Schism, and I was like, that's nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And so
you were just starting out.
And so like he linked us up, and I went to the show, and we started talking, and like we just got along really well. And soon after that, we had like a trial period where I was just sending him music all the time because I wasn't ready for Never Say Die yet. Like I just wasn't good enough. And that's a good thing. He pushed me really hard to like, he taught me a lot. He was like, fill out your high end with crowd noise and like stuff like that. Just because he's a musician as well as a manager and a DJ. And he was just like, he made me good enough for the label by just giving me these weird little tips I never knew about because no one talks about it.
You're right. Yeah.
No one's ever like, hey, in dubstep, you need a crispy little twinkly high end or else it just drags on.
Sure.
And so he told me all that stuff. And then I gave him Fever Dream Part 1, the EP, I think was the first release we did. And shortly after that, I signed on as management. I had another manager before, and like, he was a really nice guy, but it just wasn't like, you know, it's like when you start out kind of manager, not like now. Now I think there's more emphasis on like you bust straight out of the gate now instead of like doing the long, slow build.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's more of that, but it's still just about the relationship, I think, more than anything else. Like, I was the same way. I've been with my manager for a long time now, but I did have a different manager before that. Exactly like you said, nice guy, and I think actually a very smart guy, but it was the connection wasn't there, you know? Like, the vision wasn't exactly the same. Like, I think that's the most important part, is finding someone who understands where you want to go with it, even if you don't know that yourself, you know?
Right. I feel like the main issue with like me in the beginning and with management and such is that like I'm a very like, I don't know, irreverent person. I don't think that anything is really worth caring about. Like, and I do, like there's stuff I care about, but like when it comes to business, like I don't like it.
Yeah.
And I wish that it wasn't real.
Yeah, I feel that.
Like, so in the beginning, he'd be like, it's not a good look for you to do this show. Let's do this show. And I'd be like, no, I want to do it.
Right.
I want to leave my house. I'm 20.
Yeah.
And like,
I don't want to wait 3 months for this strategy.
Yeah. It's like strategy meant nothing to me. Branding meant nothing to me. And I actually still hate branding. I love concept and I love change. So like I love the idea of going full branded for like this one concept for this one record and then like abandoned it. Like it means nothing to me afterwards. Sure. And so that was a problem because people are smarter than me. And so I got really fed up and I felt like he was like my dad and not not like a cohort. Like it didn't feel like I felt very like suppressed even though he was like right.
Yeah.
And I was wrong. But like, then I ended up with Tommy and like we grew, like I grew and got used to him quickly. And I also like appreciated the dad-like quality about him. He's got a very, I don't know, he's like been around.
Right.
And he's like, but he's not old.
Well, and like you said, I mean, he's an artist, right? So in some senses, he can relate in maybe a way that just straight business people can't.
Yeah. And like the thing is, he's really good at straight business.
Yeah.
But he's like, even better at taming down my like ridiculous fantasies. Like, oh like my what? God. I remember when I was doing Fever Dream Part 1, I like kept sending these like overblown, like Rusty-esque, like explosively chordy passages. And he would be like, dude, no one like they're good, but why don't you turn it into a different thing? Because like this is the middle of the song is dragged on for like 4 minutes, and I'm just like, no, I need choirs and like,
right,
and like I still do that. I still do it a lot, but now like I feel like high concept dubstep wasn't a thing then, and now you can kind of get away with it. Like you're hearing like more metal guitars and stuff, and I mean you got people like like Sullivan King doing like straight up like just. I'd hate to add the word step to the ends of things.
I hate it too, but I know exactly.
Let's let the listeners understand in their heads, and so I don't have to say it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, dubstep to me, it feels more metal now than like even going
than
to
ever.
Oh man, it's crazy. Like going to the shows, seeing the crowds. It's wild, man. Does it? This is something I was actually curious about on the way over when I was coming to see you. Was like. You know, dubstep in 2019 arguably is bigger than it's ever been in the States, right?
I agree.
And for you, I'm just curious, you know, as somebody who's actively contributing to that culture and in that scene, like, what is that experience? Because does it feel awesome in the sense that, like, there's just more opportunities, it's getting bigger, more money, more shows, whatever it is? Or do you feel like, you know, with all this added attention and an influx of attention, that there's maybe more pressure or more rules people are trying to impose on it?
I feel like the state of dubstep right now is extremely interesting. I think that it's the most exciting it's ever been in terms of the live show. And I feel like in terms of the music, it's the most boring it's ever been. Because, and the reason I say this is not because people aren't good. I feel the exact opposite. I feel like everyone is so good.
Scary good.
Yeah, like everyone is so good that it's really hard to find, there's like not people that are like, okay, here's a good example. When Skrillex came out, dubstep was already around and it was already big.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like mainstream, on TV jokes about it and stuff big. But like, we liked Nero and we liked Schism. And
yeah.
What was, Rusko was huge pre-Skrillex.
Yeah.
And like that stuff was all fine and good, but then Skrillex came out and he sounded like bombastic and insane, right? Like everything he did was like this. It had an urgency to it where like he wanted to get every idea he ever had out. So he was so prolific. He put everything out, and like I understand why he's like chilling,
right?
And, like he's not being very public,
right?
And I understand because like he said what he had to say, and now he's thinking of other things to say.
Absolutely. Oh, I thought him taking a step back for a little was the coolest shit ever, man.
Great. It's great for musicians everywhere to know they can. But so when all that came out, everyone was like, how the fuck do I top that or try to at least mimic it? So everybody started doing this like gold rush thing. Everybody's like, I'm going to move to LA. Everyone's like, I'm going to start using FM8, which nobody used. And like, I'm going to get massive and I need to do the growl.
Yep.
And it influenced every style of music because like Complextro got heavy.
Oh, yeah. Everything
like that. And then now, like fast forward to now after like the death and rebirth of dubstep. Death. So now it's like this big influx of the younger kids, mostly like LA kids. And you've got two sides of it. So like the big stuff, like the Fluxes and the Zomboys and the... I guess, like Kill the Noise and even me. Like, we're like the old guard now.
Yeah.
Which is so funny. Because, like, we haven't been around that long.
Shit
it's been like 6 years.
Fast, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, but like 6 years isn't very long, man.
No.
Like, 6 years is 2 albums for a band.
Right.
And, like, then there's all the young kids, and they come through, like, just as good as us. Like, they're just as good as us.
In such a shorter time.
Like, they don't have an embarrassing back catalog.
Right.
And
hold on, that's a great point. Is that I think you're absolutely right. Is DJs of a certain age, we all have an embarrassing back catalog.
Oh God, well we didn't know what the fuck to do. We had nothing that was like I want to be like that.
And you're kind of right. That doesn't exactly exist anymore, does it?
Not at all.
I never thought about that.
No, I think the only person right now that people want to be like is Sudden Death. In dubstep,
right?
In general, it's Flume, but
sure.
Or
I think that's
any of them.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. Yeah,
yeah. But right now, everyone wants the sudden death effect, right? And what it is, I've like thought about this so much, man, because like I love him. He's a great person and a great musician. He brought back the importance of groove, and like I know that like there were others doing that before him, like the rhythm thing. Danny wasn't always big, and there were other people who like. And that sound has been around forever. It's just like he popped off from that scene. He's like the biggest export of that scene, which is a different scene than my scene.
Yeah.
And like, so now dubstep is split in two and the fans hate each other. Maybe not, but like there's not much of a crossover. So like all the kids going to like the real rhythm shows, which is basically like, fucking 1980s punk New York again.
Yeah.
Versus like
it does kind of feel that way.
And we've been kind of like a lot of the changes to the sound has made it all quite hair metally in my side of things. Like I try not to do it just because it's not my taste.
Right.
But like you'll see a lot of like headbangers and all that. And that's not what I got into it for.
Right.
So my feelings about the scene in general right now are that it's fragmented. And I think that's cool. I think it's cool to have, like, dubstep has finally split into two. Yeah?
Multiple subcultures.
Or even three, because then there's, like the melodic stuff, like the Seven Lionsy.
Right.
AU5 stuff.
Yeah,
And,
more
like,
feelsy.
Yeah, feelsy. I don't like that word, feels.
Yeah, it's kind of
Let me
gross.
talk about that for a minute.
Well, wait, before we get off it, though, I want to know, so I mean, I mostly agree with basically everything you're saying, but I'm curious for you, how does it affect what you do, or does it affect what you do?
It does. It does affect it.
Like, have you had to change your approach or change the way you think about what you do?
Yes. So I started having to care more about consistency, which made my writing a lot slower. Because now that everybody's so good, I can't slip up. If I do one really bad tune, or try something that doesn't land, like someone's just gonna go whoop right above me, and it happens all the time, and that's okay. Like, people deserve to rise and fall.
But I think that's an important point you're making, that we don't want to lose sight of experimentation, right?
Right. So up until very recently, when I started writing a lot again, I was finding it like impossible to write music. I was like, what am I going to do? Like, everything's fourth notes. Everything's like heavy, heavy, heavy. Like, what am I going to do? I've already made my heaviest sounds that I know how to make.
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to make it heavier? Do I need to make it heavier? And so I wrestled with that for like 3 years. And I couldn't write. Like, I would write, but it would nothing would stick. And I was trying out so many ideas, and some of it was like borrowed as well. Like, I would hear like, oh, that works. Like, let me try my hand at that.
Yeah, we've all been there, man.
And I was just like, oh no, like, that doesn't feel like me. Like, this doesn't feel like me. And I feel like it's made the whole change, and the big exposure again has also like kind of done the same thing as the first explosion, where people don't really know what they're going for. They just know that it's heavy and they want a headbang,
right?
But like, the music doesn't mean very much.
Yeah, I'm as an outsider or appreciator of dubstep who's not actively contributing to dubstep, that's kind of how I feel, for sure. Like, I'll go to a show, and a lot of the music, while I like it, a lot of the songs, a lot of it seems very interchangeable.
It's really disposable.
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be, if not already, a push for things that are memorable and things that are going to be really classic. Because, like, half of my set I could get rid of and not think twice. Like, just the stuff that the kids want to hear.
Yeah.
And I'm a DJ, and I want people to have a good time.
Absolutely.
So I have like a half and half rule. Like, half is like strictly what I want to play. Like, nobody can tell me not to play it. And then other times I'll be like, that's a really big tune. Like, that should be played. I might even like it, but
right.
I won't remember it in 5 years, you know?
Yeah.
There's so many of those.
Well, and you have such a distinctive sound and style to your own music. I mean, one of my favorite parts about what you do is that there's been this consistency of an aesthetic, I guess you would say, throughout a lot of it. And I'm curious how you sort of are able to stick to that in changing times. You know what I mean? Like,
well,
if you have a style that people know you for, and then you keep going with it, and years pass and trends change or whatever it may be, you know, how do you stay true to that aesthetic, that viewpoint, while still kind of keeping yourself current, you know?
I've never thought about that, but it's all boiled down to something really simple. My aesthetic was always about duality. I loved the idea of the intro being completely the opposite vibe of the drop while still being cohesive. So, like, I still do it, and I still can. Like, my intros are always melodic.
Right.
They're always melodic, or they're, like, dysphoric, like, abrasive, weird, like, I don't know. I'm always basically trying to write, like, a One O Tricks Point Never song as my intro, and then, like, then a drop.
Right.
And the drop is like, basically, I always write the intro first. So I'll write the intro, and I'll be like, okay, this feels like this. What sound can I make for the drop that feels like this? And if, like, the drop needs to be super heavy and whatnot, it doesn't really affect the way I write the intro, because the intro is always going to be separate, and then the build will blend between the intro and then the drop.
Right.
And I just use the build as, like, a straight divider.
That's interesting. That's actually a really cool way to think about it.
Yeah.
I like the idea of kind of sectioning it off like that.
Yeah, I like, they're two things.
Right.
And they're separate, but they work together.
Right.
But, like, the ideas always come at different times. Like, I always write the full intro and then, like, sit on it for a bit. And then I'll listen to it again and be like, cool, I have the thing for it. But Intros are the easiest.
Well, and you're like a straight laptop guy, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So
not to be reductionist about it.
No,
but
it is reductionist on purpose. Like, when I first started, I had a laptop that my dad bought me when I was like super broke in Atlanta.
Okay.
Because I just could not afford a MacBook.
And
I
what
never
year
owned a Mac.
approximately is that?
Jesus. Early, like 2011.
Okay.
2010.
Yeah.
And I graduated in 2009, so I was just like broke kid.
Right.
And I was like writing, like just doing like top line writing and lead writing for people.
Oh, interesting.
And yeah, and that's what brought me out to Atlanta, and then I made friends there and moved there. And I stayed there and got broker because I had never had to pay for anything before.
Yeah.
And I hate jobs,
And it
turns out.
And it turns out that stuff costs money.
Turns out I don't like jobs.
Right.
I don't know how to grocery shop. Well, I do now, but
Yeah.
I was just like fucking eating corn dogs and being miserable.
Living the dream.
Yeah. Well, it makes for good music.
Yeah, sure.
I was like, yeah, music's all I got because I've quit my job because I hate it and I'm never going to have a job. And I thought to myself, like, oh, shit, like, I really am never going to get a job again. Like, I don't want one. Like, I don't, it's not for me.
Yeah.
Like, people can do that to live. Like, I'd rather just, like, not live.
I'm curious, had you not thought about it that much up until that point, and then it was like once you tried it out, having a job or whatever, you're like, no.
I had a job.
Right.
And then one day I didn't want it anymore. And I did the wrong thing, children. I just didn't go back.
Yeah.
And that sucks. I probably put somebody in a really horrible position by doing that. But
What was the job, out of curiosity?
I worked at a sushi place.
Oh, hell yeah.
I was a food runner.
Nice.
It's like making nothing. Which is fine. But I had really supportive friends and roommates that like just knew that I was going to make music. Like I have always made music. I've made music since I was 10 years old.
What kind of, I mean, as a kid, if you were musical, what kind of music were we talking? Were you playing instruments?
Do you remember the song Laffy Taffy by D4L?
Do I remember it? It's one of my favorite songs.
It's a bop.
Yeah.
So I was making horrible rap beats in FL Studio like that.
Okay.
And then I was making like industrial, like Mechanical Animals, Marilyn Manson, The Dope Show stuff. So it was like industrial pop.
Yeah.
And this is all like in the span of a year. And then, I found out about punk through my stepfather, who like injected all that into me. And I was just like, okay, I'll be in a punk band, and I'll do dance music, and I'll do pop, and I'll do everything forever. And I still live by that. But back to the laptop thing.
Yeah.
So I was super broke. I only had a laptop. I couldn't afford headphones because I wasn't a DJ. I didn't need them.
Right.
So I would just sit in my bed all day and like Skype my friends back home where I lived, and then write music. And I would write
just off the laptop speakers.
just off the laptop speakers, and like that continued all the way through Schism signing me. All the way through. The first monitors I ever bought were when I moved to Berlin in 2014, right after my album.
Right.
Because I stayed in Atlanta to write my album because there was a studio and it was good. And then I moved to Berlin.
I forgot that you moved out there, man.
Yeah.
How long were you in Berlin? Like a year or two?
Year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we like came back to Dallas because I miss Texas. But yeah, so I bought like Atom 5Xs, like the small ones. And it completely fucked up my mixdown style. And I never recovered from it until I got rid of my studio.
Really?
Yeah, so those Atoms, like when I moved back to the States, I still used them all the way until I moved to Seattle, which is hopefully permanent because I love it.
And you bounced around a lot, yeah.
But ever since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And they're just like in my closet, and I got rid of my like monitor, so like I can't see what I'm doing unless I'm staring right at the laptop. So I basically eliminated the entire need for a studio, and I just like sit in my living room and write. And it has been so liberating, man. Like
back to the roots.
I'm like, my roots were so important to me. Like I never knew it. I always thought like evolve, right?
Right.
But like there's something about the magic of being young, broke with nothing to lose. And even if I emulate that just by not having a studio,
sure,
it makes it feel like not a job.
Well, that's a great point. And I think it's really important to make yourself uncomfortable in certain ways. If you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I can't hear the sub.
Right.
I have no idea what the sub's doing, but I can see it like spectrum analyzers. But,
Right.
But like it worked for me then. Why wouldn't it work for me now? And then I apply the knowledge I have.
Sure, absolutely.
I can still mess with stereo imaging. I mean, it's a stereo speaker system.
Right.
Like it's not like laptops are mono.
Well, that's the thing, man. And I love hearing those kind of stories because it's never about the tools, right? It's just about the methodology.
Like, literally not about the tools at all.
Yeah. Who else did that? Crisley used to work that way. I don't know if he still does.
Yeah, when I met him, he worked that way. I don't know. I haven't seen him in a while, man. Or if I see him, it's so brief. But he's such a sweet person.
Yeah, he's such a sweetheart, man. Shout out. He might be listening to this. Shout out to Chris, man.
Chris is the best, and I love him, and he's my sweet little boy.
So we were talking about you sort of bouncing all around. Where were you actually born?
I was born in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
Downtownish.
Downtown Houston.
Ish.
Ish. And how long did you stay there?
That is up for debate.
Okay.
According to my mother, I stayed there, I thought it was a year or two. But according to like everyone else, it was like, I think I moved to Mississippi when I was 4.
Wow.
So Houston, Texas. And then at like
were
4,
all the moves for like family work stuff?
My mom bounced around a lot. I don't know why.
Sure.
She just does. My mom, like single mom, we moved to Mississippi, to Meridian, Mississippi when I was very young. And I stayed there until I was, I would say 7.
Okay.
So, yeah, I remember 7. It was like Pokemon came out and then I left.
Meridian, Mississippi sounds like the setting for like a murder mystery TV show.
It's the setting of Mississippi Burning.
Oh, really?
It was a murder.
Oh, Jesus. Wow.
It was a not good murder.
Yeah. No, that's
civil rights
I
movement.
did not put that together, but yeah.
Oh, actually, we'll get back to that because the actual place that Mississippi Burning happened is about 30 miles away from Meridian.
Interesting.
Where I ended up living later.
Oh, okay.
And that is Philadelphia, Mississippi.
Oh, wow.
So Houston to Mississippi. I stayed in Meridian until I was 7, moved to Colorado Springs. Stayed in Colorado Springs only a couple of years. Like, I think maybe 3 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, because I left like on my 10th birthday. And when I always moved around my birthdays, weirdly. Yeah, it's weird. Like
Happy birthday.
Consistently, like my whole life.
Yeah.
So then I went back to Houston, and I stayed in Houston for a long time until I was a freshman in high school.
Okay.
And
so
then
a lot of formative years there. Yeah.
And then I was living like out like in like Copperfield. It's Houston, but it's like a
suburbs a little, yeah.
Suburbs. And then after that, I moved back to Mississippi, to Philadelphia, Mississippi, to live with my grandparents. So I moved away from my parents when I was really young.
Gotcha.
And I lived with them all through high school, and then like on and off when I would like, I tried college and that didn't work out, and like all that. And then like when I was bouncing between Atlanta and Mississippi when I was doing writing.
So like what kind of in all this moving and bouncing around, living with parents, living with grandparents, like what kind of a kid were you? Were you, quiet kid, active kid? Were you, how were you in school? Like, were you part of a specific like group of kids? You know what I mean? I'm just curious about that kind of upbringing.
Yeah. It definitely shaped me a lot and led to like, there was a lot of trauma when I was a little boy, and it continued for a really long time and only recently stopped, it was good for me. It taught me how to like handle myself and like how to talk about myself. And I am not embarrassed by it at all. Like, there's like a lot of mental illness in my family. And so we moved around a lot, and there was that. So I never had a consistent group of friends until when I was a sophomore in high school. I made like my group of friends that I still have today.
Oh, that's the best. Man.
Yeah, and they're great, and I love them.
I have a very similar group, man. It's the best thing.
You
in
just
my
can't
life,
get rid of them. Can you?
No, for real.
No. So as a kid, I was very artistic, like to a fault, and I read way too much.
Kind of like an escapist kind of thing.
I was an escapist, but I would make my own little fantasies, which is still do. I just do it through music now and other avenues. Like I still like to visual art and
Well, sure.
stuff.
And before we started recording, we were talking about Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh yeah, I want to get to that.
Yeah.
So as a kid, I didn't have a social life, and I had a few friends here and there, and then I would leave and never see them again. But they were cool. I've always adored my friend groups wherever I lived. Like they were always just like supportive, awesome people.
Yeah.
And creative people. And so I often read through class. So I was not a good student, but not because I would pass every test, but I wouldn't pay attention in class.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was also obsessed with like reading stuff on the internet all the time. So like anything they asked me, I already knew.
Right.
But not to say that they're like teachers are invaluable, but like I was reading the required material for fun before they had to read it. So like by the time we got to Catcher in the Rye, I was like, that's my favorite book.
You're right. Yeah, like you just didn't fit into the system of it.
It just didn't work for me.
Yeah.
That kind of like learning, like curriculum learning doesn't work for me.
Right.
And like, but I always had a mutual respect with my teachers because they knew that that's what was happening.
Sure.
So they would let me read like Stephen King books in the back of the class as long as I didn't like piss anyone off.
Yeah,
but
that's
like
what
I did
was
that
gonna
too.
say. Well, I mean, were you a troublemaker?
I wasn't a troublemaker as much as like class clown, but not in the sense that I was trying to make the class laugh. I was trying to make me laugh. And I would do it all the time. Like, I'm just an idiot. Like, and I just think it's so funny that I'm an idiot.
Right. You're amused by your own antics.
Well, I'm amused by like my inability to like pick up on social cues. Like that she'd be like, okay, guys, we're going to have we're going to do the national anthem. So everyone stand up and put your hand on your heart. And I would just like fall over just because I thought it'd be funny.
Right.
And nobody would notice or laugh. And I'm just like cracking up. But,
I mean, maybe do you think you kind of had to, make things fun for yourself at a certain point if you kept leaving these friend groups, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, no, like in class, like it depends on the teacher. Like there were some classes that I genuinely loved.
Sure.
Like I do think of school fondly. Like it's good memories for me. Like, and a good example, in like middle school, I just didn't want to be there. Like it's middle school, you're miserable.
Yeah.
And I would just leave.
Right.
Like and they wouldn't even notice. Like I would go to the class and then slip out and just leave. And I've just always been more preoccupied with making something. I just want to make stuff all the time. I'll make it in class if I have to. So I was like writing short stories and like writing poetry through elementary school. And then eventually it came to music, and that was I was making music as a young guy, but I didn't have like dedicated time to do that.
Right.
So then like when I was in high school and had privacy, I wrote like all-nighters, like all night, every night. And then I just like did not sleep very much.
Yeah, wow.
And then I'd snooze in for like 8 hours on Saturday.
Weekend,
Like I'd wake up at like 6 p.m. and everybody would be like, what the hell? And I'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that was cool. Like high school is probably my most prolific creative experience.
Was anyone else hearing that music at that time, or were you really just doing it for yourself?
I kind of got popular from it, like in school.
Okay.
Like I was never popular. I was picked on. Like I was very effeminate. I still am. And I love that about myself.
Yeah.
But like it didn't fly back then. Like you remember.
Oh,
like,
I do.
Our jeans would have gotten the shit. Like we would have been beaten up. And 100%. I was beaten up by, that was back when LGBTQ was not even accepted at all.
Well, sure. And especially
it's high school.
Right. I was about to say high school, not the most evolved thinkers.
No. Well, in Mississippi as well.
Well, right.
And it wasn't good. And so I didn't want to do anything but write. And then what's funny is that I always kept it to myself. And then my friends, I would give it to them. And then people would hear it through them. And then eventually, like, I was like playing, we were throwing shows.
Yeah.
In high school. Like, I was in a metal band as well.
Okay.
And, yeah, so like we would throw these shows where like the metal band would like headline. But it was only us. So it was like, we would headline and kids from school would come.
Right.
And then I would open as my like pop project. And I was like producing all the beats for that.
Oh,
and then I was
cool.
also like in the band. And so like metal was getting like metalcore was on the rise. So people were like, cool, metalcore guys. But then also like the girls liked the poppy stuff.
Right.
So like I just made friends with like a lot of people. And I graduated like really happy.
Oh, that's so cool.
With that. Yeah. People always expect me to be like this little troubled child and I hate school because like I am pretty vocal about like I hate authority.
Right.
And like I hate structure. But school was dope and it gave me a way to like socialize and also have quiet time where I'm intaking information and then I would go home and then just everything that was in me would just go like blow out and I could just write all night and I still love that.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible, man. And I mean, it's heartwarming to hear that the sort of obsession with music was such an outlet for you, but then also was sort of an in for you to be more interactive with your fellow students and all that.
Yeah, it's like the best thing that ever happened to me is music.
That's incredible, man.
Yeah.
And so where does it go, you know, leaving high school? You said you tried college for a little bit.
Yeah. I went to what was it even called? Oh, God. I don't even remember
Trump
what my
University.
college was called. Yeah, let's just call it Trump University. It's a real college. People went there and graduated from there. I was not one of them.
Indeed.
I went for about 3 months, and I was dorming with a guy named Josh. Josh, if you are listening, I know you're not. You're a really nice person, and I love you, but I didn't like living with you. But I would like to live with you now. So make some room, baby.
Aw.
Yeah, like I made music, not in headphones, and he played Rock Band at 3 a.m, drums.
Yeah.
Like, I can't sleep.
Yeah, that's rough.
It was pretty bad.
That's
So
rough.
I was reduced to only making music like in the morning while he was at class, and he didn't have class every day. And then our place got infested with ants.
Oh, God.
And I was like, why are there ants? And so I left. And I lived with another friend for a second. I was making music out of the literal laundry room. I slept on the floor of the laundry room and like wrote music there.
Wow.
And that didn't work. So then,
Yeah, that sounds rough.
then I like, I just like left and didn't go back.
Yeah.
But I didn't tell anyone. That's like, I feel so guilty about it. And like my family.
Kind of like the job, right?
Yeah, but like worse because
Yeah.
money is involved.
Sure, of
Like
course.
you can hire a food runner in Atlanta the same day.
Right.
Because that's how I was hired.
Yeah.
But like my family, like my grandmother paid for me to go to community college and like I just didn't go to class. I never went to class. And like I think I went to one of each class. And then I left. And I feel like I was so ungrateful as a child because like, well, I have no context. Now I know what sacrifice is
Right,
and
of course.
saving is.
Of course.
I had nothing like that. And even shortly after, like we made up, I was just like, hey, I was wrong. Like I should have told you and I shouldn't have even gone.
Right.
Like it wasn't going to work and I wasted your money and I will like repay you with like, I will help you out forever.
Of course.
And now we're like the closest. I speak to my grandmother every single day.
Oh, that's amazing.
She's amazing. I love her.
How old is she?
She is, I think she's 61, 62.
okay.
I have young parents,
Yeah, I was
young
about to
grandparents.
say.
Yeah, I'd say 64, I believe, is her age, but I don't ever ask her.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's great. And I was raised by a different grandmother than that.
Okay.
So like they live like next door to each other.
Oh,
So
man, that's super confusing.
So my mom's mom is the one who paid for my college and is like my best friend.
Right.
And then my other best friend, grandma, who I love just as much, is my mom's stepmom and my mom's dad, and they're married. So they got a
Check.
divorce.
Check.
And stayed cool. And then he remarried, and they're best friends. And so it's like this weird dynamic.
that's interesting.
So sick. I love it because
Yeah.
I just got like more awesome family.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah. That's like the it takes a village kind of thing.
Yeah, it does take a village. Honestly, there's so many siblings as well. Like all my, I'm the oldest of 6, and it's great having all that support. And then I've got like my dad's family.
Right.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them too, and I love them.
Oh, that's so cool, man.
Yeah, I don't know. When it comes to family, I'm like super blessed and really happy.
That's
with that.
fantastic. I'm an only child, man. and
Oh,
it's-
really?
Yeah.
You turned out very nice for an only
Hey,
child.
thank you. I mean, I don't know. I guess there is that perception. For me, it's just like I've never known anything else. Like when I was younger, when I was a kid, I definitely thought being an only child was the best. And
Well, yeah, because you don't have to share anything.
well, right, exactly. And like you get all the attention and everything.
Young people and babies and like all the way up through like 23, we're so egocentric.
Yeah.
Like we're so into ourselves, but we don't even know it because we have no capacity to know that we're being selfish.
Right, and no context for it.
So like when I found out I was having a brother, I was like livid.
Really?
Yeah, he's 5 years younger than me, my first sibling. And I remember my grandmother worked at the school that I went to. She was a teacher. And I was in her classroom, and she comes up to me and she's like, I like did not register that my mother was pregnant because like I was really 5 years old.
Right.
How would I know what that is? Like my mom was like, "You're gonna have a brother. You're gonna have a brother," and I'm like, "Okay, whenever." And then like she was like, "Your mom is giving birth. Do you want to go meet your brother?" And I was like, "What now? Yeah. Like he's here now?
Right, yeah.
Like when did he get in?" And what hotel's he at?
Right, exactly.
So I went and I looked at him and I was just like, "Oh, you little fuck."
Yeah.
Everyone's like holding him and looking at him.
And you can see
and I was
things
just like,
have
God damn it. Like,
yeah.
but I love him so much, man. I loved being a sibling in a big way. And what's funny though is like, I think everyone with siblings grows up with this weird sadness though. Like that you wouldn't have. So like now that I'm older, I think of everything mean I ever said to him.
Oh,
because we're old enough to know now.
And of course, when you're young, of course, you say horrible things. And
and you don't care because he's
right.
your little shit brother and you don't care.
Yeah.
But then I'm like older and I'm like, oh my God, do you remember that time he was smacking his food and I like slapped him in the face? Like that's fucked up.
Right.
And so this last Christmas, like he's like 21 now, 22. And he came over to my grandmother's house and we were at Christmas, like not this year, but the last. And me and my stepdad and my brother and I think like my friend Brandon, like we were just like drinking and watching Die Hard. Yeah. And like I got like so emotional and I like turned to him and I was just like, you know that I regret every time I was mean to you.
In the middle of Die Hard.
In the middle of Die Hard. And then you say like, yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Yeah. And you're like, yeah, man, yippee-ki-yay indeed. Yeah. And then we hugged and it was great. And now we're like super close again.
That's so cool, man.
I love it.
Well, okay, so tell me if this is a reach, but while you were talking about this whole extended family and your love of that vibe, it got me thinking, possible connection back to what we started off talking about.
I don't know what we started off talking about.
Well, I mean, dubstep and how it's...
Is that what this is about?
Well, you tell me if I'm wrong. So I think one reason why dubstep has been super successful is in recent years is because there have been these kind of families of artists that have come up.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, it sounds like you agree, but for you, do you think you flourish in that kind of environment because that's where you come from? You know what I mean?
I actually think yes. I think that a lot of my career has been based around forging relationships that extend much past music. So like everyone, what the fuck is this? I just found a pipe cleaner in my chair.
Oh, that's
disgusting.
Sick.
Actually, I think it's actually a mascara brush. It's not mine. Wish it was. So I feel like everything I've ever done in my career is the result of me being able to bond quickly in a pinch with someone. It's just natural from not having a lot of friends growing up and having to forge with new ones all the time.
Right.
Like, so when I met Schism, we got close quick because I made it happen.
Sure.
I was like, I will be close to you because I like you.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay. And the same thing happened. Like, first time I ever met Michael, he stayed with me for a week, like Eptic.
Right.
He stayed with me for a week. And like Habstract. And now like, and then I became like the pad where Never Say Die artists stayed. Like if they were touring in the States, they lived with me.
Sure.
And like that, but it's like been way before that. Like when I did the Dim Mak releases, and I never like bond with the A&R. I'm always like, who runs this place?
Yeah.
And it's
manager.
not actually like social climbing at all to me.
Right.
Because I'm just like, I respect you. Like you're the one that I came here for. Like we're going to be close because otherwise why am I here?
Right.
And I did the same thing. And I've just always done that. And then I have these like big extended families of friends, right? Like I'm so unbelievably close with the other artists on Never Say Die. Like,
I mean, just as a whole label, I'm always very impressed by the family vibe that Never Say Die has.
It really is special. I feel like it's really special.
'Cause you can
and
tell-
Disciple has that too. Disciple, like, well,
Absolutely.
they're also all like LA based now. So
Right.
like
But
they're
that's the
together
thing. When
all
you
the time.
can tell that they're actually friends, whether
Yeah.
it's you guys or them or whoever else, and that you actually talk to each other and spend time with each other outside of the business end of it, right?
Yeah.
Because I think, at least for me, like I have lots of great, valuable, real friends in this business, but I also have a lot of business friends, you know, who I like to see. And sometimes it happens that our business intersects and we'll hang out for a little bit.
I don't have business friends.
Really? Not at all?
I don't think I do.
Yeah.
I think I have business acquaintances and we're friendly,
Sure.
but I would not call it friendship.
Yeah.
And I think that can seem like I'm being a little abrasive, but the truth is, like, I live by a motto of, like, if I don't want to, I don't.
Right.
And with touring, like, a lot of the artists that I tour with, we either become really close or I never speak to you again. And it's not because I don't like you. It's just like, I don't know.
It either clicks or it doesn't.
It's like it clicks or it doesn't, and I'm not going to be the one to force it. And I don't want business friends. Like,
Sure.
business friends go away when the business goes away.
Right.
Like, what's the point?
Absolutely. No, I agree with you. I mean, and in reality, I think I'm closer to what you just described than maybe what I was saying before.
Well, maybe,
Like,
yeah. I think most people are.
Yeah. And especially as we get older, too, it's just, I don't have as much time or patience for sort of surface level friendships, even if it...
Niceties are nice, but they're not substantial.
Exactly. Like, I'm not even talking about the fake friends thing or any of that. I'm just talking about surface
that's not
level.
even a real.
Yeah. I'm just talking about, like, the pleasant surface level interactions that you can spend as much or as little time on as you want,
I mean, going back to the music side of
Yeah.
it, being so close with your label mates means that, like, all the support that we're supposed to give each other is, like, heartfelt and real. And
Yeah.
like, it even
And
goes,
that makes a difference, right?
oh, big difference.
Yeah.
So if I hit up Zomboy and I send him a tune, he's not going to be like, God damn it, I don't want to listen to this and give feedback. He'll be like, this is really what I think.
Right.
Because we're friends and I know that you're not going to get hurt if I tell you something you don't like. Yeah. And especially Lax. Like, Lax is the one that has all the critiques because he's a perfectionist.
I love sending him stuff
I-
because he will never, I mean, he's very nice, but like you will hear exactly what he thinks is wrong.
I was joking with him about that earlier. He FaceTimed me earlier because I'll see him tonight. And I was like, he said, so I gave him a critique on his song. I was like, there's a Hey sample that I think is too dry and in the mix. Like, it's too loud. And he goes like, oh God, I have to redo it. Like, you perfectionist. And I was like, who do you think I'm talking to? Like, you're the guy that, when I did the remix of Brain Bug for him in like 2014, I sent it to him and I was like, hey, I hope you like it. We'd never met.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, I hope you like it, man. Like, thanks for letting me do the remix. And he sends back like, I don't like it. Like, just get rid of it. And I put it out anyway, but
Yeah.
he didn't like it at first. And I think I actually found that chat.
Really?
It's so funny.
It's so refreshing, though, man. I've had that experience. A long time ago, I sent something to Long, Gent and Johns, and we've been talking about doing something together for a while. I had like conceptualized this whole thing, worked a bunch on it, and I sent it over, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't like it."
But you know what sucks is, like, I've had other artists, I won't name names, who have, like, they're doing collabs with people or something, and then they'll just be like, I didn't know how to tell them that I hated it.
Right.
Like, I didn't know how to tell them, and I'm like, that's the problem.
Absolutely.
Like, I only write music with people I adore.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. Even with Long, who I do adore,
Yeah.
I was not offended at all. I was
No,
I was
'cause
like, great, we can move
Then
on.
we'll do something. Yeah, let's not waste time.
Right.
But with, like, for example, if let's just pull out, like, Rihanna, right? So if I'm doing something with Rihanna, I would not know how to tell her that I didn't like it.
Sure.
And she would not know how to tell me she doesn't like it, except for, like, the power difference.
I was about to
She would
say.
have a manager say it.
Yeah, exactly.
But, like, when you're doing, like, dude to dude or dude to girl to,
Yeah.
bass to trout. When you're doing it person to person, peer to peer, you lose that ability to, like, send your negative emotions through
Right.
your manager.
Right.
And, like, it can be difficult if you don't, like, pick your battles. Like, you...
Well, okay, so
yeah.
talking about, like, power differences and even going back to something we've talked about before, talk about working with a guy like Skrillex.
Yeah.
How did that come about, and what was that experience like?
My experience with Sonny is that he is the most unique individual I think I've ever met. Like, not in that he's weird or creepy or crazy, like, because I don't think he is. I think he's, like, genuinely so sweet.
Yeah.
And he wants everyone to have the world, and I think he gets bummed out when it doesn't happen.
Yeah,
like,
it's
he
true.
can't give everyone the world,
Yeah,
but he wants to.
He's very open, man. Yeah.
He wants to. He's full of love, that guy. And I haven't talked to him in a while, but if you're listening, Sonny, you are the best. I don't remember how we met. He followed me on Twitter, and I had to like pull over and like hyperventilate.
Yeah, of course.
I was driving, and I just like pull over, and I'm like,
oh, God.
what the fuck?
Breathe into
and I
a
was
bag,
because
yeah.
he's such an inspiration, man.
Right.
And like, so we started talking, and like, we like became friendly, and I had this idea for VIPs. Like it was like a little whip of VIPs, like a little like 1 minute loop.
And was this before or after you had put out the EP with Ausla?
Oh, that was after I put out the album.
Okay.
Yeah, that was after.
Yeah, sorry, album.
So the
not EP.
album, that's a whole crazy story. It was originally going to be on Never Say Die, and then but Skrillex wanted me to do something for Ausla, and then like it all got so jumbled. It was like it was on Never Say Die, then it was on Ausla, then it was on Never Say Die, and then it was going to be a co-release, and then it ended up just being Ausla.
Sure.
And it was so wacky, and the album got canceled like twice.
Oh, man.
Like completely like shelved.
That sounds stressful, man.
It was. And it all took place within like a week. And like I remember me and Tommy like both cried at different points.
Oh my God.
Because it was so stressful.
Jesus Christ.
Because he was just like, I'm trying. And I'm like, I know. And I remember that like I cried when he told me it was happening. I was just like, oh my God, I worked so hard on this.
Dude.
Because dude, like I worked so hard on that album.
I'm sure you did,
It was such a weird album. I just saw some British gentleman posted like the Needle Drop Anthony Fantano style review of that album, and it was like super praisey. Like he really liked it, and I was like, I never had that when it came out. Like I thought everyone hated it.
Really?
I did. In my head, everyone hates that album.
Really?
And then he was just like, it's a classic, and I was just like, oh, thank you.
What gave you that perception?
Oh, that's just me.
Okay.
I think that everyone hates me.
Fair enough.
And I don't mean it.
Right.
I know that no one really hates, well, some people do, but not
Sure.
everybody.
But there's always a voice in your head,
but
right?
yeah, that voice can come out a lot. And I was like, I struggle with depression quite a bit. And that was the darkest period of my life. And like, it was so hard, that album process, and it was so cathartic. And that's why it sounds so weird, I think.
Yeah.
And so that came out on Ausla, and then I did the VIPs thing with him, and that took a really long time. It took about like a little over a year and a half, basically. I think it took that long.
Yeah.
Because he's so busy. That was back when he was like still doing like the touring,
Right.
like the biggest touring artist of the scene ever,
Oh, yeah.
period.
Absolutely.
And like, so that took a really long time, but he was like, whenever he would send something back, it would just be like really cool. So on that tune, he mainly was the drum guy. He was like, no, like the drums need to be more organic. Like the drums need this and that. Because to me, I was like thinking like 909's like housey style.
Oh, okay.
And he took it in the other direction. Cause like that little like woo noise, like I made that. Like I had already had it in the thing I sent him. And then he did like the little growly bits. And so really we were just going back and forth on groove, and we kept it up. Then he did the halftime thing, because I wouldn't have thought to do that. That was before 130 BPM halftime was a thing.
Sure.
So he did that. And I remember I used to like hate playing that part, because I was like, this is too slow. No one's going to like this. They love it. So yeah, it was an interesting collaboration.
Done all online?
It was done all online.
Yeah.
Like I remember I went to his place like to talk about the album, and I thought we were going to write there. I thought we were going to do something, because I just assumed if I was releasing and doing a dubstep album that he would be on it.
Right.
And like, but that didn't happen, and I'm glad it didn't, because like now I feel like I have something that's like mine.
Sure.
And like if Sonny would have done something with me on that album, it would have invalidated everything else on the album, because he's so good.
That's a really good point too, man.
Yeah, you don't want to like, I don't know, like with your idols. Like, I liked that we made a house tune. A lot of people didn't like that we made a house tune.
I love that you guys did that.
We wanted to do something that wasn't what people wanted.
Yeah.
We wanted to do what we wanted to do.
And I never thought about that until you said it. But if he had been on a track on your album, that would have been the only track
that
people
got popular.
paid attention to.
Yeah, it would have completely...
Yeah.
Yeah, because like... Yeah, that album, like, it had a couple of features. I think I credited Datsik on one. And like, I think he actually didn't do very much and asked not to be on it. And I was like, no, I'll put you on it anyway. No, he'll tell you, like,
yeah. That's just a funny thing.
And so, like, so he was barely in that. Yeah. Like, I wrote it for us, and then he did, like, one or two things.
Yeah.
And was like, I didn't do enough to be on this. And I was like, I'm going to put you on it anyway.
Right.
And then I think we had Raga Twins. I reached out to Raga Twins, and I got them on it. And then I had Mantis, and I think that's it. I think that's the only features on the album, unless I'm completely missing someone, in which case I'm sorry.
Right.
But I think, all of that, like, if I were to, like, now it's, like, to the point where, like, if me and Eptic do something, like, I don't know what we'd do. Yeah. But, like, people don't, like, I like the idea of matchups where people, like, would not be able to predict the ultimate outcome.
I love those.
Like, with me and Zomboy, it's dubstep. It's going to be dubstep. Like, that makes sense. And, like, that's what we want, too.
Right.
But, like, or if it was like me and Skrillex again, people would want dubstep, not house.
Sure.
And then, or if I did something with like Chris Lake, they would want it to be house. But like, it would be fun if we did like something else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you can even flip it like in the micro level of that. Like I think we were talking before we started recording about a collaboration where, you know, two people known for certain things kind of flip who's doing what on the tune.
Yeah.
You know? So like if there's a guy who has like a signature synth sound, like, you know, I love the collaborations where they'll do the
other
drums.
guy does, or like the other guy does their version of their signature sound.
Or that too, yeah.
Like, for example, like Eptic is known for his like little, everything he makes sounds like you can make it with your mouth. Like, wah, 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 wah. It's very
great
sassy.
way to put it. Yeah.
I've always, I love that about him. Like everything he does, you can sing.
Yeah, that's true.
I like the idea of like, if we did something together again, like I would do those and he would do the screechy stuff and like the growly stuff.
Yeah.
Because I've never heard him do those.
I like that too, man. So, okay, so I'm curious, like, leading up to the album, you know, between, say, Atlanta, where you're in the struggle and you're doing top line stuff, were you working in, like, pop studios at that point?
No, I was in dance music.
Okay.
I was in dance music.
Okay.
It was like the blog house era.
Yeah.
I'm hesitant to say anything.
No, that's
like,
fine.
I was just like, I wasn't like, it was interesting. So I learned a lot because like the guy that I was working with like was a good producer.
Right.
It wasn't like he wasn't able to write.
Sure.
It was just that like I'm weirdly obsessive about leads and like back in the day in Bloghouse, the leads were the top lines. Like now they'd be a vocal because vocals were not that prevalent.
That's a good point.
Like if you think about all the Bloghouse stuff, like any vocal was just like, remember like Designer Drugs, like drop down, I'm gonna give it to you. That's like the only thing in that song.
Yeah, it was like one line. Yeah.
And it was clearly them.
Right.
And like, and it wasn't like a top line. Like they weren't like, okay, I got my writers. Like,
of course.
Yeah, so I was doing like lead riffs and also like for other people, like random people in the city, I would do like, no, I'll write that for you.
Sure.
Like, yeah. Because like I just wanted to work.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make things. I didn't care. My name wasn't on it.
And so how does that evolve into, you know, turning it into a successful Must Die project? Like, was there a turning point or an inflection point where you felt like this is starting to become a thing that could sustain itself?
Yeah. So I was in a duo called Street Lurkin', which is a horrible name. I did not pick that name, Ryan. And so he was a photographer. He is a photographer in Atlanta, a Snap Kid. And he wanted a project. He wanted to DJ, and I wanted to make music. And we were friends. And we had this project where I wrote all the music, and then he was like the DJ. Mm. But I was also the DJ, but I never DJ'd. I just like fucked with effects.
Right.
Because I didn't know how to DJ. I didn't. I only learned how to DJ until like after Must Die started. Yeah, because I wasn't touring.
Right.
It was like... So I got really kind of fed up with it. Like I kind of started feeling like I wanted to be the front man, like the face.
Yep.
Because I love to perform like as a front man in bands and stuff. And I was like, people are becoming superstars and like being a face and a personality and like a persona. And I love the idea of personas. I think they're great.
Yeah.
Also the games. Persona. Those are great RPGs.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I know exactly what you're
Persona
talking about.
5 is the best fucking game ever made. And so I quit, like, right as we started to make money and get reviews and, like, get around the blogs. Like, we were starting to pick up bookings, and I panicked because it's not what I wanted to do the touring with. Mm. And so we had a show in Seattle, and I bailed. Like, I had a panic attack and I couldn't make my flight. It was going to be my first time going out solo with that project.
Really?
And I just like did not want to. And I think about it, and like I would feel guilty if it weren't for the fact that it was like a panic attack.
Well,
like I didn't just go like, I don't want to go, so I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
I like
something happened to you.
It sucked. And like I just didn't go. And then I quit. Like respectfully, I was just like, I'm done. Like I just can't do it. And so that dissolved, and there was like a week where I didn't know what I was gonna do. I was like, I'm gonna do music. And I was dating a girl at the time. And like, then she left me when I was in LA to write.
Wow.
And no. And like, she's great. Like, we're still friends. I get along with all my exes.
Oh, no. I'm just saying that must have been a tough time.
Yeah, it sucked. But like, weirdly, that catalyst of like losing everything, like all the structure that I had in my life was so freeing that I immediately wrote like the song Water Temple and this song called Anniversary, which was like my first release as Must Die. And then like a couple of other things as well. No, Must Die was around, the name was around because I had been doing the Moomba stuff. That's Must Die, and it was my side project. I forgot about that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Actually, I think
that's
I
how we
forgot
met.
about that too. That is,
I think that's like how we met.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, that's how I met like Jose, like et cetera as well.
That's
and, like,
when
everyone,
I met
like
so
Valentino
many people.
Khan and like...
Yeah, that's when I met Valentino too.
That's when I met
Holy
like everybody.
Shit, I totally forgot that.
Wow, that was a side project. I always thought that it meant nothing to me. So I would just release stuff as Must Die and like never paid attention to it because I was busy with my other project. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do Must Die. And like, I kind of like it felt like I restarted the project. And I put out all those songs and they had like a sound to them that I did not have with the other project. And like, I just kept doing it and trying out new things. And I was really experimental at first. I was like, do people want to hear a pan flute in a dubstep song for a really long time? Hey, can I use like the sound of waves crashing over the build?
Let's find out. And
it turns out people wanted it. And that's really cool. And so I was doing that. And my whole approach was to make extremely feminine dubstep, but like the drops be bombastic and heavy like Sunny, right? But the intros be very like rusty Hudson Mohawk.
Yeah, a different energy, right?
Yeah, like Warp Records style, like everything. And then I remember I was sitting in like my bed, which I did a lot, and I was just like, this is gonna work, and this is gonna be my job, and I'm gonna keep this job. Like, and I'm never going to work another day in my life if I don't want to. And I never, ever did again. And it's like, I just have nothing but good feelings about that time. Like, it should have been such a sad time for me.
Right.
But it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was like so exciting because I had freedom from structure.
Right.
And like, then it got
Which
more...
seems to be when you flourish, right?
Yeah. The second I lose all responsibility, like if I don't have to do anything, I'm extremely creative. But like the second you go like, okay, you got to go on tour on Friday, like I'm not writing.
Yeah.
It's just not happening.
That's interesting, man. And I mean, you've mentioned, your issues with depression and that sort of thing. And I think about the tour life and it wears on the body, it wears on the mind. Yeah. I mean, and it's not just the touring, it's kind of everything in this business.
Yeah, it's all the urgency.
How do you deal with it? Have you found ways, in these years, because you tour all the time, like there's times I look at your schedule, I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Me too. With that, it took a long time. I mean, I used to just drink too much.
Yeah.
Like, I would get depressed and I would drink too much. And then I would, like, show up on stage pissed off and drunk and depressed.
Yeah.
And that's no good.
It's not good, but that's a classic musician move, man.
Yeah,
I
mean, people do it all the time. People are doing it right now somewhere.
Yep.
Well, it's a little early for that. But yeah, and, like, I noticed it. At first, you don't notice it. You're like, oh, this is just tour life.
Yeah.
This is what everyone does. And like, I idolize depressed musicians. Like, it's a fantasy that I thought would play well into my personality.
Of course.
And it didn't. And of course it didn't. It's toxic. It's not good.
It doesn't help anyone, really.
Yeah, like, I'm not like an alcoholic. Like, if I'm at home, I don't drink. But like, there was a period where like tour life, like, was just like drinking. Drinking runs in my family. And like, I was always afraid I was going to be an alcoholic or something. Turns out I don't have that, thank God. But I had to start being like really mindful of the decisions I made on tour. I'd be like, okay, dude, like last night you drank with your friends, you hadn't seen them in ages. So tonight, maybe don't.
Right.
And so that helped a lot. And that was years ago. And like when I started to just like slowly taper my way into like a more sober touring experience.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning it was such a party. Because like you weren't doing like these big shows where people like gave a fuck. Now if I show up like that, like it's very apparent.
Absolutely.
And like the show's not good.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, again, as we get older, I mean, you just can't do it as much as when you were younger, I think.
No, it hurts.
Yeah.
No, so like the main thing that changed, like honestly, the partying was never like a problem.
Right.
But it wore on the body because of the lack of sleep. So like if you were up all night drinking and chatting with your friends until like 4 a.m. after the show, you're not getting any sleep because your flight's at like 8 a.m.
Right.
And like the lack of sleep played into my depression really hard. And like, so I did like process of elimination to see like what was fucking with me. It was sleep. And so like the sleep thing, I just started like really stopped trying to do so much. Like if I was getting into a city, I don't leave. Like I'm going to take a nap. I'll make the time to take a nap.
It's even like what we were talking about today in LA. You know, I'm sure there's a million people hitting you up. Hey, come here, do this.
Yeah, and like as much as I want to spend time with them, like I need to like make the show day like its own little vortex of rest.
Yes.
And even at like when you get to the show, you can drink and have fun with your friends, right? But I don't deserve it until I do the show. So like before the show, you're cool and you're calm and you're quiet and no one's allowed in the green room and it's so quiet. And like people think like it's a diva move, but like it helps me live.
Well, and what I love about that, man, is like that's a strong structure, but it's a structure that you've built
It's
yourself.
A structure
it's
that
not a structure that anyone
I can change
imposed.
if I want to.
Yes.
No one told me to do it.
Yes.
Yeah, and also another thing that really, really helps when you tour is accountability friends. Like have friends that are emotionally vulnerable and open and are good at speaking their feelings. Because then when you're down, you can reach out to insert name. I have so many good ones. Like a good example is Ducky. Ducky is a fantastic person when you need to speak your mind. And they're not gaining anything from listening to you. Like they're not, and you're not really gaining anything back, but that like release or just stating how you feel makes it go away.
That's absolutely true, man.
It's like,
it's the same thing with, you know, I think so many things you can have anxiety about or be worried about, and you're so scared to voice it, to tell
because
anyone.
it'll make it, in your mind, you're like, oh, it'll make it real.
But you're absolutely right. It's the exact opposite. The second you voice it.
The second you say, I feel this way, you recognize that it's a feeling and that's not like an actual state.
Right.
So like if I go like, because my brain problems are like manic depression and anxiety. Like not just anxiety, not generalized anxiety, but panic attacks specifically.
Do you still get them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't. So the last bout of them was a few months ago, like right before Paradiso. And it was super shitty.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Well, I found out that you can beat it without medication by like you can trick your brain into turning it off. And I haven't had one since. Oh,
that's amazing.
It feels amazing. Like having like knowing that you did it and you had the power makes it like once you're not afraid of them anymore, they don't happen because they feed on fear.
Right, and it's
like the fear of a panic attack is what causes a panic attack.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it was weird, man. I like never knew that I was going to be able to do that.
Was there some secret you figured out?
No, it's like the only it's what they would tell you in therapy.
Yeah.
If you went, and I never did, I should have. But like if I would have gone into therapy, they would have said the same thing. So I just read like, you know, articles by therapists on how to deal with a panic attack. And you just don't avoid it.
Yeah.
You're supposed to go like, if I'm going to have one, let me have it right now and I hope it kills me.
Right.
And then when it doesn't kill you, you go like, oh, you can't kill me? Why am I afraid of you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, what, my heart's beating as fast as if I run?
Well, what I love about that, man, is that's this exact same story you were telling about school, where the teachers would try to tell you something and you had already read it, you know, and you already knew it.
It's like you can't, nothing affects you if you're like knowledge is power, man.
Right.
I think like the more you know about something, the more it makes sense to you. And we fear what we don't know.
Absolutely, man. Are you a big reader in general?
Yeah. I used to be more of a reader. I still read, but it takes me longer.
I think we
to
all
read books.
used to be. Yeah, I'm the same way, man.
But I've got like 4 in the rotation at the moment. I just read Michelle Obama's memoir.
I've heard that's amazing.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
And she's a sweetie.
Shout out.
I love her.
Michelle Obama, if you're listening.
Michelle Obama, if you're listening, this next drop's for you.
Well, I don't know exactly how to make this connection. It has something to do with reading and escapists and fantasy, but I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons.
I also want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. Let me start with this. 5th edition is great.
Incredible.
It's so good.
I love it so much.
Yeah, it's really good. I didn't play it at all growing up.
Oh, not at all?
Not at all.
Interesting.
So I got into it really hardcore about 2 years ago. I picked up the 5th edition in Atlanta, I had bought like the 4th edition starter set, like the red box, right?
Yep.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to give this a try. And I never got a group together. It never happened. I never opened it.
Yeah.
And then I got 5th edition because I was like, man, like you're starting to see this resurgence of like that. There's just like that atmosphere that you make and it can be anything you want. And I was like, oh, God, I want to do that, and I don't want to write music. I was really burnt out on music.
Okay.
That was during that period where I couldn't write because the scene had changed, and I was like, where do I fit into all this? And
did you say, was I hearing you right, that was like a years-long period?
It was like 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, that was like basically after my album, everything changed, and I had a really hard time writing.
Were you not putting out music in that time?
Not much.
Huh.
Not much. And that just ended.
Wow.
Like I'm now writing as much as I used to.
Wow.
But it's been a long time. Wild. Yeah, maybe 4 years of like staggered bad releases that I just don't care for.
Yeah. That must have been a stressful time too, man.
Oh, dude, I thought that I was going to go extinct.
Yeah.
Like I was just like it's over. Because there's this new wave and how do I fit in? And it wasn't that I couldn't adapt, it was like did I want to?
Sure, of course. And that's such a key, man, because I was just talking to somebody about this last night. It's so easy to just get into the rat race of everything and to stop thinking about why you're doing it.
Yeah,
you know?
I needed, again, it all goes back to freedom.
Yeah.
And lack of structure. And if I want to make the music I want to make, why don't I just make it?
Well, and here's a fucking connection. Freedom and lack of structure is the only rule of D&D.
I love that. Yes. Yeah, well, I mean, there's a framework.
Actually, there's a lot of rules.
Well, the structure, homebrew, man. You can remove the structure.
That's also true.
I do everything theater of the mind as well. So, I don't have, a playboard or miniatures because we do it on the internet.
Right.
And I don't like to have maps or anything because it takes up time. And that's time
I
could use for narrative.
Yeah. I've done both ways.
Yeah, same. I've done every...
the group I'm in now, is very much about the miniatures and the mapping,
it's tactical
grid. Yeah, I mean it's not all combat. We do still do a lot of the theater of the mind stuff.
So I've never played. I've only ever DM'd.
Really?
I love it.
That's so interesting.
I want to play. I would love to set up a game where Diesel Boy DMs or something.
Oh my God, that'd be incredible.
Yeah, where or you DM or someone like that, and then you get that would be a good podcast. That would be so good.
Don't tempt me.
No, you might want to do it.
No, I absolutely
want to. Well, imagine
it.
So
I don't know
it's
if
the
I
same
have the time,
setup,
but that sounds incredible.
Well, fuck it, do a one shot.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, just a one shot dungeon where you're just they're in the dungeon and you were.
We could do that, man. We could get 6-7 people.
I know Eptic would play.
Yeah,
he's expressed interest in playing with me before. I know Trampa would play. He's watched me run a session before.
There you go.
I could
bring in a couple people.
Yeah,
Elefante wants to do it. He told me.
Yeah. I think Kill the Noise would absolutely love it because he's a Dark Souls junkie.
Yeah, you're right. We might have too many people. All right, we'll take this offline. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, keep that in the podcast though. Hey, DJs.
Yeah,
come get creative in a way that isn't your job.
Well, okay, and that's we talked about before. So important, and whether it's D&D or anything else.
Yeah, hobbies, man.
Hobbies. Yo, I
if
preach
music
about
used
hobbies
to be your
all
hobby,
the time.
Music used to be your hobby. Now it's your job. Find another hobby that you can get that creative juice going without feeling like it affects your livelihood.
100%.
If you make a bunk D&D campaign, that doesn't hurt you,
right?
Or if you're painting and you fuck up your painting, Just make another one.
And it's not a competition with that.
No, not at all.
It's just pure creativity.
No one is like rating you.
Right.
Or like sending you like D&D comments. No one's like, well, I guess if you're like on Critical Role or something. Oh, God, yeah. Everyone's just like, oh, you fucking botched the rules.
But even for those guys, I bet they need hobbies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, they're voice actors.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah.
And I'm glad we're talking about this. This is like the second day in a row I've recorded this show and talked about D&D. And I haven't talked about it much beforehand. So if anybody out there listening is into D&D or just general nerdery, let us know. Send us comments. We like to see that.
Yeah, I'm always down to talk about it. If there's like a call to talk about it more, like shoot, hit me up. Because like, I just think it is such a beautiful way to do writing and world building, and that applies to music. Like that atmosphere that you have to create to actually suspend disbelief.
Yes.
Like, so for those who don't know, the whole crux of it is that one person writes basically like the world. Like when you watch Game of Thrones, you want to believe that Westeros is real, or Harry Potter, you want to believe that like Hogwarts is a real place, and the best to make you feel that way, Tolkien was a master of it.
Yes,
Middle Earth feels real. It's amazing. But then like D&D, you're trying to suck in these people, and you always go in skeptical at first. Like the first session, everyone's always like, "Do I role play, or what's a dwarf?" And like. It's so great because by the end of like the third session, you're all just so invested in this world, and you're like talking about the characters as if they're like actual, like real they're in people. A book. Yeah. It's like you're building this story, and it can be as overarching as you want. It can be as one-shotty as you want.
That's my whole thing. The way I try to sell it to people is it can be whatever you want it to be.
And the players shape it too.
Absolutely. And at its core, it's just you hanging out with your friends.
And telling cool stories.
Yeah, and telling stories. That's really all it is.
Yeah. And like, who doesn't like stories? That's why you're listening to this interview.
1,000%, man. I want to know, before we kind of wrap it up, For Must Die, music-wise, what are you working on right now? Like, what's exciting to you? What do you have coming up?
I'm so excited right now. I'm in such a nice place musically. I'm so happy. Yeah, ever since I got rid of the studio.
That did the trick.
Yeah, I got rid of the studio, and it all came back, like all of it. Like, I'm thriving, baby. Yeah, like, I'm working on a lot. I've got a lot of projects right now. I've got a song that I'm wrapping up to play tonight with Kitty of the internet.
Right.
She's
formerly Kitty Pryde.
Yeah, formerly Kitty Pryde. Now current member of the Pom Poms and American Pleasure Club.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Shout out to
her
Kitty.
husband and her are working on it with me, Sam Ray, and Kitty. And I love them both, and they're amazing, and they've like really killed it. So I had this little like flute lead thing, and I was like, "Can you sing the flute lead?"
Oh, cool!
And it's like a happy song about the end of the world, which is very me. I'm very happy about it. And then I've finished one that I've been playing out live, and like we're gonna start showing people that one really soon. And I'm really excited about it. Like I'm just being really experimental again, but in the structure of dance music, and it's so fun. I'm working on a lot. I got collabs with unnamed artists right now, and those are coming together beautifully, and I'm so excited. I feel like this year is just going to be a wealth of content because it's just all coming out again. And
that's great, man. Are you thinking singles, EP, another album?
That's undecided.
Yeah.
I would love to do another album, but I am afraid of the commitment at the moment.
Yeah.
I would like to see if this is a fluke of creativity or see if it sticks around for a long time. If I start building up like backlogs, then I'll start shaping the way I write to be album format. Right now, I'm thinking singles and maybe an EP.
Fantastic.
So it's all undecided, so like don't take me at face value, but I think, I mean, there's a lot of music that's about to be coming out. Whether it's singles or an EP, it doesn't really matter. Like, the music's going to come out.
That's great to hear, man.
I think right now is a great time to release music. You've got, like, all these new kids that have risen up, and they're doing great. Like, for example, like Virtual Riot, Sudden Death, Barely Alive are doing great music. I think Bad Clat is always killing it, and everything he releases is great. Like, Eptic finally got the recognition he deserved.
Yep.
He's such a unique voice in dubstep.
Oh, yeah. Just like, in dance music, man.
Yeah, there's no one that sounds like him.
There really
Maybe
isn't.
like old Jump Up.
Sure. I mean, I see that, but he's one of those people who I agree with you. It's really cool to see different corners of dance music getting into him, not just dubstep.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what
He's
I mean?
got like this, and also like he's got like visual art fans
Right.
because he's an amazing artist.
Absolutely.
And then like Trampa is now like touring the States and stuff, and it's like beautiful, and I love it. And so everyone's coming out with these cool ideas, and I feel like now like that my family is doing well. It's time for me to like come out of quote unquote retirement, even though I've been touring like 200 days a year, to come out of like musical struggle and just be like, no, we're all going to celebrate. We're all going to release everything and say what we have to say again. And Never Say Die is in the place where I feel like it's just a good time for a party. And I feel like I have a lot to say now that I've been sitting on and thinking about, and I have a better understanding of what I want and why. And like what I want is to express all of these weird feelings in my head, not like feelsy, but like, I don't know, there's a weird like existential feeling in my music when I write it. Like there's a sample in one of the, it's not a sample, it's my manager, Roma. One of my managers.
Yeah.
Roma. I hit her up and I was like, can you record yourself on your iPhone saying, I only ever wanted you to suffer? like a loving way.
Oh God.
And like I used that and I was just like, that's the vibe. Like that's the whole thing is like suffering and love and loss and hope and dance parties all in one. And I was like, that's such a cool sound. So I made this tune that sounds like that. And I was just like, ooh, yes. Okay. Now I know what to do. So I've been world building.
Dude, I love that. No, I love everything about that. And I think, we were talking earlier about how maybe one of the issues of this explosion of dubstep is that it's more disposable, or the tunes have become more disposable.
Yeah.
So I like the idea that you're putting a philosophy behind it, or a framework behind it.
I'm really pushing.
Like maybe that's a way to steer the ship.
It's like I'm doing like Dadaism through music. I feel like I'm pushing an agenda.
Yeah.
Like I do.
Well, I'm glad you are.
I feel like I'm pushing some sort of weird emotional agenda. And like, I feel like some people are really going to understand that and some people won't, but they might like the music anyway.
Absolutely.
But I feel like my core fan base has always heard it in my music and they talk about it.
I think that's why people get really into you, man, is because they want that perspective. They want that viewpoint. It's not necessarily about the specific sound of a single song,
No, and it isn't. And for me, it isn't. When people like, nothing bores me more than talking about sound design.
Yeah, same.
Like, I do it. Like, I make sounds. But that's not what's important to me. I care much more about the music, like the musical music, not just the aggressive part
and the thought behind it, right?
Yeah, every song I've ever released has had some weird philosophy behind it, that like a point I'm trying to make. And I know that sounds super pretentious, and like I am super pretentious. So lean in. So man. Like it's true, and like I like the philosophy behind things. So when I do something, it's always like a little concept piece. I'm like, what happens if I made like a UK hardcore song or a gabber tune, but it's dubstep, but it's not, but because I think it's like it's pure anarchy, and I want anarchy in this song, and like it's like how you hear people be like, oh, the vibe, and you're like, bullshit. Yeah, like I actually feel those ways.
Oh, absolutely.
And what's funny is I'll call other people out for being like, I'll be like, oh, we wanted this vibe. And I'll be like, oh, fuck you. Yeah. And then with me, I'm like, no, I really want this vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully this year will be really interesting and fun. And it already feels that way to me.
I'm glad to hear it, man. I'm happy to see you thriving, to hear everything's going well.
It's fucking great, man.
I've really enjoyed this, man.
So happy.
You're one of my favorite people that I feel like I just never got to know that well.
Yeah, I don't exist outside of my room very much.
And I'm the same way, which is how that works.
Yeah, I just don't hang out much.
Nah, me neither, man. But I'm glad we get to have times like this and many more to come, and we'll talk about the D&D thing later.
Yeah.
Is there anything we haven't covered that you want to get out there?
Yeah, I think if to end this right, I would be remiss if I didn't say that I think anyone listening, whether you're struggling in your job or in your life or in a relationship or mentally, physically ailing in any way, don't ever forget, like we've lost a lot of great people in the entertainment industry to mental health problems. Like depression is the silent killer. And I think that it is extremely important to remember that pride is worthless. Like pride stops you from getting the help you need. So if you feel like you've got it under control, but like you kind of know you don't, speak out, call somebody, call your mom, call your dad, call your brother, call your friends, call the police. Like these people, most people in the world want you to be okay. Like people you don't know would be happy to help you.
Yeah.
So like, I just feel like with all the discussion around that, and like, for example, like Lil Uzi Vert is feeling pretty bad right now.
Right.
And
yeah,
that bums me out. I
that.
love him.
Yeah.
He's like my favorite.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, I just think his personality's crazy.
This is just a weird tangent, but
Yeah.
I played a festival with him years ago. It was like, he was not famous at all. It was, I think, maybe one of the first times he had played out of Philadelphia.
Right.
And I ended up sharing a car to the festival with him. And the whole time, I'll never forget, he was just glued to the window. It was in Washington, D.C. He had never been there before. And he was just like a little kid.
Yeah.
He was so
Still is,
excited.
man.
Yeah. And he was so excited about everything. And like the love of it was so pure. It was just like radiating off of him.
I love that.
And yeah, man, and that's the one and only time I've ever met him. And so I had that just like ingrained, and then to see how far it's gone.
And to see that he's not so excited anymore.
Right.
That's a bummer. And so, yeah. And like, I'm mainly speaking to musicians when I say these things because that's who I know.
Of course.
Like all of my friends, like even the friends that aren't in the music business are all avid fans, right? Like they're music people.
Yeah. But for anybody,
I don't relate to normal people very well. I know that's true. It sucks, man.
But what you just said, I think, does apply to almost anyone, and I don't.
And I hope it does.
And I don't think you can ever hear it too much.
No, and I know that it can become quite like grating and cliche to hear it, but like if one person, and also it's important to like check on your friends, like check on them.
I'm a big advocate for that.
Yeah, just like. I don't know. I felt like I had to say it because like I've seen so much of it in the industry, and I've been talking to a lot of people, and like mental health's a problem is with social media as well. Like the battering, like it happens, and like
the more I
talk
to people about these kind of issues, the more these conversations I have, the more you realize that so many people,
like
almost
everybody
is dealing with it. In
I
one
mean,
way or
everybody's got something.
Yeah,
like nobody is purely happy.
Yeah,
and it's important to like. Let that be a part of yourself, but also manage it. Like you need to manage it like you manage eating.
Sure.
Like every day I try to be mindful about something and like really pay attention to like what I feel. And I feel like once I started doing that, my life got better. And that's how I'm happy.
I love that,
and
man.
I just want other people to try it because it makes you a better friend. And it makes you a better person and a better performer and a better writer and like a better whatever you are.
I would take it further, man. I don't even think that's just music specific.
I don't think it is. Yeah.
Well, this has been really fun, man.
Yeah, I would love to do this again sometime.
Yeah, we definitely need to do that. I'm going to end it by asking the same question I ask at the end of each of these. Real quick, off the top of your head kind of thing. You don't have to think about it too hard. Just a time in your life, and this could be recently or when you were a kid, anytime when in a moment, music really deeply affected you. And that could mean like change the way you thought about something or tied to an important moment or just gave you goosebumps. Doesn't have to be significant, kind of just the first thing that pops into your head.
I've got two and they're equally important.
Let's do
One
it.
is when I was a kid and one is not that long ago. I heard the song Enjoy the Silence by Depeche Mode when my stepdad played it for me when I was like 12 years old, and I cried. I just started crying. I had never heard anything.
Out of nowhere.
Like I had heard 80s music before, and I'd probably heard that song, but like something about it just like broke me.
Yeah.
And like I knew like I wanted to make other people cry.
Yeah, sure. Like
it was weird.
Was it that kind of thing where it like unlocked something in you, like a depth of feeling?
It broke all of, like for a moment, I felt like an adult. I felt like all the feelings of an adult.
That's big.
And I was like, I felt sadness. I felt like I was like, oh, this music moves, like, and I'm so sad. There's something about these, like, what is it that's making me?
Right.
And I was like, it's the chords and the atmosphere, but I didn't know that at the time. Just like, it broke me. And I think that same day I heard, like, what was it, on the Garden State soundtrack, that Frou Frou tune.
Oh.
Let Go.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that tune fucked me up too. And then recently I felt that same thing again. And like, it's so funny because I am an adult. I'm 27.
Yeah.
Like I felt everything. Like I feel all these profound emotions, and like I guess I forgot how to feel vulnerable when listening to music. Like really let it in.
Sure.
Because like you hear it and you go like, oh, I hear the guitars, I hear the drums.
Well, and it's as a DJ, it's like we're the
we
analytical
analyze,
part.
and as a songwriter as well, like
course.
you're analyzing what it is that you like about it.
Of course.
Which started with the Depeche Mode tune and then stopped when this happened. Zomboy, we were in Thailand together. Zomboy said, have you ever heard of the 1975? And I said, no. And which I'm an idiot because they're so fucking good. And he played me the song She's American by the 1975. And again, it broke me. I didn't cry, but I flew back home from Bali. Like, so we did like Thailand, Bali, and then I flew home.
Yeah.
And on that flight, I listened to that exact song over and over and over and over again, like literally on repeat from when I went to the airport until I walked into my house.
Wow.
And like, I still listen to it at least once a week. And I don't know what it is about that song. There's this magic to it. And it just made me feel it all again. Like
I
this
was just about to say magic.
visceral pain happy, like that melancholy that you feel in your gut and you just
Yeah.
want to cry, but you're like so, and it's sexy too.
Sure.
There's something very sexual about that feeling. And it's such an interesting
because
feeling.
crying is a release, right?
Yeah, it's a release, isn't it? Yeah. And like, it's also a full body feeling.
Yes.
Like your face flushes and you feel it in your chest. And it's like this lovey energy of anxiety.
Yeah.
And I hadn't felt that in so long. And then I heard that and I was just like, whoa. And then I analyzed it because
Yeah,
that's what I do. And it
what can
turns
you do?
out that the things that give me that feeling are switch ups. It's the interval of like, if you listen to Enjoy the Silence, if you listen to like the actual like bum, 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 and you'll realize that all of my melodies are based on that same like rearranged versions
Right.
of that bass line.
Right.
And so is that tune. And you can flip it to be happy, flip it to be sad. And it's the most versatile thing to me.
Right.
Because I've never written anything in a major key and like I never will. But I just don't like it.
Sure.
But it's that's the epitome of why I always write everything in like a pentatonic minor or whatever the fuck I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Because I don't know theory. But something about that breaks me every time. And then I found it in other tunes as well. Like I loved the Smiths as a kid. And I remember hearing How Soon Is Now for the first time. And that song didn't break me, but like it gives me a tingle of the same feeling. And so, yeah. So Zomboy did it once with the 1975. And then my stepfather did it again.
That's
And,
incredible, man.
Yep, I'm looking for more of those.
Yeah. Same here, man.
Actually, I felt something akin to that. But more like as a producer, I was like, whoa. So do you know who Clarence Clarity is?
I don't.
Dude, there's a song he wrote called Naysayer Godslayer.
Okay.
It is amazing.
Okay.
So listen to that. So everyone out there, listen to Naysayer Godslayer and validate me.
I mean, honestly, man, it's that connection, especially when it comes out of nowhere and just hits you. For me, like that's when I feel, not to get super hippie about it, but like
No, get hippie about it. I'm not into that, but like when you're talking about music, I think you can get as
well, that's the thing.
esoteric as
I'm
you
not
want.
into it either, but the thing that gets me closest to it is that it makes me feel more connected to like actually being a human. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know what it is about music.
It's a deeper level of emotion than I feel on a day-to-day basis.
Do you
know
reckon
what I mean?
that music stimulates some part of your brain that just like
I do.
I think it turns up the notch of like of consciousness in a way that is like not explained.
100%. And there's a couple books about that, which I am not as well versed on as I should be to talk about it.
Yeah.
But I'll send you links later.
Because I would dying to know more about that.
Yeah, there's
now
a
that we brought it
couple.
up.
There's like a scientist wrote a book called I'll send it to you later.
Nice. I just finished. I actually gave it to Zomboy. I just finished. I've been getting really into minimalism, like really into it. I think it's beautiful because clutter destroys me. Like, I'm so bad about it.
Yeah.
Like I'll buy things just to have them to fill the void of like lack of inspiration.
Right.
And then, so I read this book called Goodbye Things. Like, of course I've read like the Marie Kondo, like,
Of course. Yeah.
and it's good. She's a smart lady.
Oh no, I buy into her.
Yeah, I buy into her too. Like, I think that she's just trying to make people happy.
Right.
And, who can argue with that? And Goodbye Things is written by a guy who read her book that went extreme. Like, he lives in a room with like a tatami mat, and like it's just a new style of Japanese minimalism where it's like kind of mixed in with like Zen or like Taoism. It's interesting. It was good. It was a short read, so if anyone has too much shit and wants less shit and wants to be happier,
What's it called?
it's called Goodbye, Things.
Goodbye Things.
Yep, and it's by Fumio Sasaki.
All right.
Yeah, it's
awesome. I like that. That's, I think, maybe the first book recommendation we've had on this show.
I have plenty.
Well, when we come back, man, part 2.
Yeah, I would love to talk more.
We'll revisit.
Yeah.
This has been great, man. Thanks so much.
Awesome.
All right. Peace. All right, that's the show. Shout out to Must Die. I'm so glad we finally connected for this, man. Like you said, I want to come back and do part 2. So let's find a good time and make that happen. For everybody out there listening, shout out to you. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did making it. Don't forget, Must Die's new track, Bliss 2K, is out right now on Never Say Die. The link to that is in the description of this episode, along with where you can go to get all the tour dates, all his other music, and stay up to date with Must Die. My name is Willy Joy. You can always keep in touch with me. backtobackpod@gmail.com is the email address, or I'm at Willy Joy or at backtobackpod on all social media. We're only 2 months away from the 100th episode of this show. That blows my mind. I can't believe it. We're trying to plan some special stuff around that, so stay tuned. Have a great week. Take care of yourselves. Take care of the people around you, and I will talk to you next Tuesday. For Back to Back, this is Willy Joy. Peace.